Oh my God.
All right, you guys ready? Here we go. I got you rocking and rolling. Beautiful. All right, let's roll.
Which one is the one that busted the TV?
Oh, you want to know? Okay. Real quick, let's do a little bit of a straw poll. Wait, can you see this?
Which kid was the projectile? Yeah, which one I got has a good arm?
Oh, we know which one's.
All right. Which one of my kids do you think broke 3 TVs? 3. 3 in 3 weeks.
Why not?
Second row. This one? This one?
Yes.
It was this dude right here. This dude right here. He knows it. So, for those on the Zoom, I apologize. You have no idea what we're talking about, but. All right. So, guys, thanks for jumping on team meeting and thanks for being here for those that are here. Dana's out today through the rest of the week as she has a surgery planned. I think ironically, this is actually, I thought kind of funny. She texted me at 8 a.m. in her scrubs with a picture of her doctor, and the doctor was my friend from undergrad. She goes, "You know everybody." I said, "I know everybody." I'm kidding. But it was kind of fun to see and glad that she's in good hands because he was one of my smartest friends. Dr. Lucas. So anyways, here's my goal for you today. Okay. I'm going to touch base on some high level what's going on in the macro economy that you need to be paying attention to. I'm going to give you my insights to it. I'm going to help you understand what to make of the market of the moment. From there, I'm going to help you understand why agents become a statistic in this business and where their issues lie from a very interesting study. And then from there, I'm going to go into how do you maximize a return on investment, which for those of you who've been around a while, you know what the investment is, but I have a pretty good story behind why you should maximize it. Sound good? So mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. I want to lead with something here real quick. Our values, God and family first, then business. And look, when I say God, I also believe that everybody has a spiritual belief within who they are and what they believe in, and what you believe in is a personal choice. It's not as if God is one defined person or one defined spirit. And also to that, it's a great reminder that our families come first and our businesses come third, and who it is and what it is that we do it for. Last week, we had an incredible opportunity to host a family picnic. And this came about because in February, I was having beers with a friend of mine. His name is Paul Hackbarth. He owns all the camp bars in Milwaukee. And he's knows enough about our organization because we've hosted a lot of events in his spaces. And he said, "Charlie, what are you doing for your families?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "You have such a great culture and a community. You should be doing something for your families. Let's do a family picnic." I said, "Well, Paul, where are we going to host it?" And he said, "At my new spot at the State Fair." I said, "Great, let's throw a fair." Here was the coolest part about it. We had 574 people registered who showed up between the hours of 3 to 7. And it was awesome to see how your families interacted with our community and for our community to see your families. Because most of us only know the interaction for when Tony says, "Hi, this is Tony Jean Greco from Mind Right Realty Group." But do you get to see the whole person, or people who brought their grandkids, who brought the people that were special to them? And so I think it was a great success. And we're definitely going to run it back next year. Bigger, bolder, better. We already have ideas on what we can do to improve it. The first year, you're like, "God, we're throwing a party. We hope people show up." And then 574 people show up and you're like, "Oh, okay, we got something." But for those that were there, here's a quick reminder. And for those that weren't, here's a little bit of a showcase as to what we did. Talking to Stanley. But it was a great day, and I got to give out a shout out to DJ Zach Shipley, who was on the ones and twos for a little vibes, and Darshell Router, who provided bounce houses, games, the dunk tank, and glitter tattoos. So Darshell. Oh yeah, and Josh. Have you ever seen Josh do magic? Holy shit. I'm glad I didn't give him money because it would have disappeared. He's really talented. I stood there with you for like, I don't know, 15 minutes. And we were trying to figure out all his different tricks, and it was really good. So, but I share it with you is like, what we want to do is continue to showcase people who have really cool talents, who have different side businesses that can contribute to it, but also like bring our families together in a way that aligns with our values and our value statement. And so be on the lookout. We're going to definitely run it back again next year. And Wooten and I are already planning and scheming on what we can do differently, but to make it awesome. And hopefully for those that missed it are able to enjoy it next year. Cool. Awesome. All right. So September training calendar is launched. We launched it yesterday. A couple things to point out. One is we're running with the KW AI playbook. There's a 3-part series. It's going to be every Thursday in the month of September, starting on the 4th. Part 1 is all around demystifying AI, understanding the core concepts around what prompts are. Part 2 is the applications. How do you utilize AI in a way to make it and streamline your business? And then part 3 is how do you integrate into it and building tools that can maximize your efficiency. You'll see a theme with us within AI because we made a strategic investment in a platform that we will hopefully be rolling out to you post Labor Day. That will be an AI platform / assistant that will give you the answers to everything you need within our environment at a moment's notice. From anything you might need from a compliance standpoint to what's our W-9 to I need a referral form to can I get the team meeting slides from Tuesday to what is the training calendar to please send me the Zoom link for Tuesday team meeting to I have offer A and offer B, both have an escalation clause. I'm uncertain as to both are worded, which is the better offer based on the language within the contract that you would recommend that I present to my clients and what would trigger it at what price points. All of which is a project we've been working on for the last, what do you think, Wooten, 6 to 8 weeks? Wooten? Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks. So more to come on that. And everything's internally focused. So it's all based on our environment, our ecosystem. And we have thousands and thousands of documents that the machine has been learning and we've been training and also course correcting. You want to know if you can wholesale a transaction, what are the disclosures you need? Or if you're a principal in a transaction because you're selling your personal real estate, how do you set up the contract to mitigate your risk? Make sense? All of which is coming out very soon. All right. We'll jump into the macroeconomic trends and things you guys need to be paying attention to heading into 2026. Okay. First, gross domestic product is the measure in which we measure the health of our economy. We went on a 3-year run from 21, 22, and 23 where the GDP was increasing, but it was also increasing at a rate where the rise in GDP also caused a rise of inflation. The way they cool inflation, they raise rates. Why do they raise rates? They need to cool the housing. They need to cool the housing sector within our economy. And because the housing sector is the #1 driver to our GDP. So how does that then show up? You can see we're going to go from a 2.8 growth of a GDP to 1.4. Now, the challenge to it is a drop from 2.8 to 1.4 is dramatic. Okay. And where we're in an interesting spot as an industry because prices continue to appreciate. And I'll get there more in a second. The other piece of it is as the GDP dropped, unemployment is starting to rise. And trends happen over time. It's not like it'll rise and then fall right away. It happens over time. So you have the GDP falling, unemployment rising. Okay. And the way they counteract that is they drop rates. Because rates, you have to remember, rates also impact things outside of mortgages. Take a friend who might own a manufacturing business down the street, they need to borrow money in order to buy more trucks or more machinery. That's called capital expenditures. And you drop rates in terms of what the cost of it is to borrow capital in order for businesses to reinvest in their businesses, which creates job creation. The challenge to it is the number one driver in our economy is housing. And housing, from an inflation standpoint, is already still very relatively high. So the challenge becomes is they need to stimulate the economy and they need to stimulate job growth, but yet the number one sector that drives our economy is housing, which is already unaffordable. So if rates drops, demand goes where? And what happens to prices? Correct. So they're in this really weird quagmire of a position right now within our economy where they can't afford to drop rates because it'll drive inflation, which is what they just spent the last 2 years trying to fix. And yet they have unemployment rising and GDP slowing. And so they're trying to figure out what is it that they need to do to stimulate the economy. And us being right in the middle of it with the number one driver to the economy being housing is kind of stuck in this weird spot because we would like rates to go down, but then that would drive more inflation. It's a weird spot to be in. They call it stagflation, where things are stagnant because the measures you would pull would counteract what you just tried to fix. Okay? Not that I expect you to need to know that or to be able to articulate that to your clients in a big, broad way, but more so to say that like we're in this weird spot from a housing sector where they need to improve the economy without touching housing because they want housing right kind of where it is. That makes sense. So home sales on an annual basis, this is something you need to be paying attention to as you think about your strategic plan for 2026. And what you see is over a 5-year period from 18 to 22, we sold 27 million units across the US. Well, from 22, it was down 18% off the peak. 23, it was down 30% off the peak. And 24, it was off 30% off the peak. So we've been in this environment where the housing market has really come to what I would consider to be a screeching halt when you consider of how far it is off of the peak from where we most recently were. And yet the challenge of it is, and this is where you need to start thinking about your internal businesses, about what you're working on, is a lot of agents have been drunk on volume. And when you're drunk on volume, what happens? You make poor strategic decisions or poor strategic investments because your income hasn't been impacted. Yet you might be losing because units have gone backwards. And so why I keep challenging the group around paying attention to your units is that you have to understand from a historical perspective, the average agent historically closes 10 units a year. Last year, we were down 47% off the historical averages, and this year we're down about 44% versus the historical averages. And so the reason why agents don't technically have felt the pain is because they've gotten drunk on volume. Their per average deal size, their per unit deal size has gone up so substantially that if their units went backwards, they might not have felt the impact of their income. The challenge of it is that whether they know it or not, because it didn't impact their income, it impacted their market share, which is something you don't want to lose. So, and yet the positive to it is you think about your position within the marketplace is last year, 88% of all transactions had a professional representation of a real estate professional, which was the second highest in the 40 years. The number one highest was actually last year, or 23. So what the market is actually telling you and what the consumer is actually telling you is that they value your services in a complex transaction with their largest financial asset on their balance sheet, which is positive. Okay. And yet we know that because there's more people in this environment, there's 50% less units on a per agent basis. So there's two big problems we're facing from an industry standpoint that you need to be thinking about strategically heading into 2026. How do I control my units so that my units are going up? The volume will come because the units will go up. And two, the environment is telling me they value our services. And you have to understand that 92% of people only interview 1 or 2 people. So they value your services, yet they only interview 1 or 2 people. You have to be first. Now, here's where the challenge becomes, and this is where I believe our industry suffers and where people can become statistics, is the last mile problem. And this stems from a very big presentation where they did a big market research study around leads, okay? And the last mile problem is this. And I've talked to you guys about the last mile problem as it relates to Amazon. Amazon's value creation is inconvenience. The most expensive piece of their transaction to you when you buy toilet paper from Amazon is actually getting it from the warehouse to your house. But the reason why you use them is because you can get toilet paper within 24 hours without having to actually go to the store. I'll tell you our last mile problem. Agents spend tons of money on marketing and leads. You might not have a big business, but you could still be pretty good at spending money. Then you spend money on tech and CRM platforms, and whether you use them or not, a lot of people they pay for tech that they don't utilize to its highest efficiency. And then they look for AI and predictive analytics to tell people, oh, where is it that I should be fishing? And they're looking for the easy button in order to where they should be investing time in their relationships. And the number one issue that our industry faces is this. Over the course of this study, which lasted 18 months, here's what they found. 35% of leads were never responded to. 47% of requests were not responded to by a human. It was responded to by a chatbot. The average time it took for a human to respond was 8 hours and 17 minutes from the initial inquiry, which is basically telling your clients or consumers 42% of the time they and 42% of the time they never asked for the client's contact information, which means that 42% of the time they said they're not going to do their job to sell your home. Right? Like if your job is to drive exposure to your listings and you have knowing and willing buyers who come in and you don't ask for their contact information, then what is it that you ask for? How do you follow up? How do you seek feedback? 62% of agents never followed up with a lead after the initial introduction or conversation. So the last mile opportunity that we face as an industry and where I believe people become statistics is they don't follow up as it relates to the interaction they have with their clients. And so their relationship becomes disintermediated. The relationship gets replaced. Remember, 92% of people only interview 1 or 2 people. And so then they wonder why. This is a true story. I was the best man at somebody's wedding. He sold his house with somebody else. I was the best man at his wedding. Now, you know, the lesson in it for me was, even though I was the best man at his wedding, I hadn't seen him in 18 months, and somebody else entered into that relationship who not replaced me, but replaced my wife, replaced us as his fiduciary. I could take it personally and emotionally, or I could recognize where my relationship with him stood that allowed somebody else to enter into that relationship. Point being is we're looking for the easy button all far too often. And we have to recognize that we have to maintain the relationships in order to win the business. Now, why is this important? I'm going to share with you something that I found to be incredibly interesting. And I'm going to help you understand why the relationships are important and how do you create friction relationships for them to be sticky. Watch this. So we wonder why our relationships get intercepted or interrupted. And then you see a graph like this and say, why would it that the best man in I was the best man in somebody else's wedding, choose somebody else? Relationships. And so as you think about that this time of year, there's this thing called the energy dial. And you're entering into a period of fall cleanup. You've been in this rat race of working in your business, not working on your business. And my challenge to you effectively being here now in September is how do you begin strategically working on your business? What happens during the fall is what you should be paying attention to is cleanup of your database. And there's two ways in which that you do this. One is leads, those that you don't personally know yet, and documenting the sources of how those leads came to you so you understand what's within your database. The second piece of it that you should be doing from September through mid-November is on the contacts, those that know, like, and trust you. They care about you and they want to see you continuously succeed. The 80-20 principle lies true. 20% of your database will deliver 80% of your results. Then you'll enter into November. And here's where my challenge to you becomes is most agents take off from November through January. Oh, I had a good year. I can take off. I'll hang out for the holidays. I'll take a vacation, this, that, and the other. The truth is the separation is in the preparation because you're entering into a period of winter renewal. And the period of winter renewal is this. It's where the top agents shine because they bring people together to create connection to their brand and reputation. They're working on their business. They're not working in their business from a transactional standpoint. Think about the amount of social events and holiday parties and everything else that you can go to where you have a real opportunity to connect people with who you are, what you do, and how you serve them. You have to embrace those opportunities during the winter months. Because what happens is from March to September, you are afforded the opportunity to be stuck working in your business because 65% of all transactions happen in southeastern Wisconsin between March and September. And here's something else. If you miss your first quarter, there's not enough transactional volume in the fourth quarter to make up for a catch-up. There's not. So you have to hit the ground running now in terms of how you strategically work on your business in September to hit the ground running in order to win the first quarter. And life is about choices. Agent productivity is the direct reflection of the choices they make. Let's look and see how that plays out, shall we? Little public accountability. And I won't call anybody out. So let's take a look back at the fall of 2024. This individual agent in the Southwest Market Center, they couldn't afford to attend Bold in the fall of 23. They were in a really tough spot January through May. Then last year, they were able to rebound. They invested their time, energy, and money in January through March. Their units were up 200%. Their volume was up 430%. This is an individual agent out of the North Shore. They invested their money, they invested their time, energy, and money in the fall of 23. Here are the results in the first quarter of 24. Last year, they were too busy, and they had a goose egg in the first quarter of 25. This is a large team. They invested their time, energy, and money. This is the return they saw in Q1 of 25. This is a team in Lake Country. They invested their time, energy, and money in the fall of 23. You can see the returns they had in the first quarter of 24. In the fall of 24, they were too busy. Their units were down 54%. Their volume was down 33%. Large team in the North Shore, they invested again, and their business was up 20% off of a first quarter. It was up 77% from a units perspective the year before. Individual agent out of Innovation, fall of 23, they weren't interested. They had a goose egg in Q1 of 24. They invested their time, energy, and money in the fall of 24, and in Q1 of 25, their units were up 150%. The volume was up 388%. Individual agent in Southwest invested their time, energy, and resources. January through March of this year, their business was up 25% from a unit perspective, up 42% from a volume perspective. Lake Country agent, Innovation, mid-sized team, they invested their money. They were too busy. Units in the first quarter was down 34%. The volume was down 12%. The story goes on and on and on. And what I would tell you, this was our company performance. Last year, we had the most amount of people who ever took Bold, 144 at one time. You can see through Q1 our results versus what happened in the industry. Units were up 32% for KW Associates, down 2.1 for the Metro MLS. Listings taken units were up 22% when listings taken for KW folks, they were up 2.8% for the Metro MLS. That does not happen by accident. You don't hope to wake up one day and be up 32% on closed units. Hope is not a strategy. It's intentional purpose and use of time strategically and working on your business. So sometimes I get a little accused of fabricating my data because I'm an overly optimistic and positive person. So yesterday I created a little video for you to see something. Check this out. Keeping receipts, receipt, 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 receipt. Building the bold team meeting back. Look, facts tell, stories sell. The facts tell us you want to be bold. I did all the math with an old school calculator to help you understand what happened in the first quarter for those that decided to take bold and those that didn't. Bold delivers results. Changed my mind. And because if you think the story is because of 1 year is an anomaly, 2 years is a trend, here's the same stories that I told you last year from the fall of 23 bold. Stories are the same. Fall of 22, stories are the same. Fall of 21, stories are the same. Despite what you think of it, and I get it, some of you are like, oh, I've taken it 4 or 5 times, I don't need it again. Okay. Some of you might say, oh, it's not for me. Okay. All of these examples are people in this room or in our environment in southeastern Wisconsin. I hide their names just not to shame people, but know that this is real data. Okay. And if you think the story changed, I went to the very first time I pulled this deck, which was the fall of 2017. You can see October of 16, October of 17. I went all the way back. What was that, 7, 8 years ago? And I went and pulled the data to show you that the time, energy invested in taking the bold room, 99% of you can't afford to not be in the room. So don't forget what happened to the man who suddenly got everything he wanted. Charlie says to Mr. Wonka, what happened? He lived happily ever after. Hey, are you coming? There's the Guinness Book of Excuses. And it's not just about the results, it's also about the community that's built and the people and the connections that you make. Here was several years ago at the Zufari Conference Center. Here was a great example of a dinner. Sheila Smith, you were in this photo of the dinner, of a bold room table going out for dinner after the class. So we're running bold back again this year. Couple things to point out. It's on Thursdays. We got the feedback last year for 8 to 2 was a little too long with no lunch, so we're making it 9 to 3 with a lunch. It's at the Zufari Conference Center, which is about 10 minutes that way, if that. And because of the success we had last year in the results it delivered for so many people, which by the way, I had 30 examples and then I was told it was too many examples. I would bore people to death. I cut it down. And so I went back and said, okay, but it delivered such exceptional results for so many people and it changed a lot of people's trajectory. We're running it back with Amber again this year.
Nice.
Amber, for those of you who don't know, is sold 109 homes her 3rd year in real estate. She sold over 500 million in total closed volume. She runs the Naples Market Center down in Florida. She's a mom of 4 children under the age of 15, and she's in Gary Keller's top 100 mastermind. She's exceptional, badass of a woman. She will change the trajectory of your business. And as you think about the return on your investment, one incremental deal is worth the investment it makes. Now, some of you might say, I can't afford to be in the room because I don't have the money to do it. Don't worry. I will never allow someone to not be in the room because of money, because I firmly believe in the impact that this class makes on other people's businesses. So there's a payment plan option where we'll spread the payments out over a period of time. There's also a scholarship application. We give away roughly $10,000 a year in scholarships for people to be in the room. And we also have people who donate to Bold Scholarships because they were impacted by somebody paying it forward for them. And we want to offer that forward. This morning, I had an agent graciously, this is one of our top profit share people, gave me a $1,600 check for a Bold Scholarship and asked me to spread it across 5 to 8 people. so that they can be in the room. But we have many people like that who are graciously giving to our community because someone gave them the opportunity to be a part of the room. Cool. So my hope for you today is this. One, hopefully I give you a little bit of an insight from a macroeconomy standpoint of why we're in a period of stagflation and why you can't expect for this boom to happen anytime soon. We're going to be in a period of slow growth over time because we're in an environment where they can't really touch rates because it would create more inflation within the economy because of what housing does to our GDP. And yet GDP is going in the wrong direction and so is unemployment. And so they got to figure out what to do, but they don't want to touch housing. Two, we're working in an environment where the average agent right now is operating with 54% less closed deals. So there's just less deals to be had because there's more agents running around the environment, which makes the market much more competitive in terms of how you think about how you plan to attack your business at 26. And you're entering into a period where you need to be working on your business, not get stuck working in your business. And you have an opportunity to make that investment of your time, energy, and resources in order for you to maximize your returns heading into 2026. And hopefully I showed you that the data says it's an exceptional investment of your time, energy, and resources. Cool. With that, for those that register for Full Bold today, we do have some scholarships within these balloons. If you register it, grab a balloon, pop it, and make sure you tell Wooten what you received within the balloon. Lastly, I'm not a beggar of these things. I hope to tell you the story to help you understand why I believe it to be important for you to be in the room. If you choose not to, it's totally cool. Like legitimately, there are legitimate reasons why people don't make the energy investment of time, energy, and resources. And for those that might be on the fence or don't know what Bold is, hopefully I showcase to you as to why I believe it to be a very important piece of what we do in the fall in order to help accelerate your productivity in Q1 of 26. Cool. Sweet. With that, I'll be hanging out to answer any questions the group might have and or whether it be the economy, the industry, the business, so on and so forth. And we'll continue to help you guys thrive into 2026. Sound good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Rock and roll. You guys, it's a beautiful Tuesday in Milwaukee. Thanks for showing up.
Thanks, John.
All right, guys, so a couple of options to register. You can go ahead and sign up for Full Bold if you would like to, or if you want to do the payment plan, you can let me know that your information as well, and I'll get you on the payment plan. It's 3 payments of like 266 and some change, so that will be on your invoice, which makes it a little bit easier to break it out over the 3-month period versus $7.99 at once. So, if you do want to register, come up here. I can fill out a form with you real quick, and then you get to pop a balloon. All the money in the balloons will be reimbursed once you graduate Bold.
That's it. That's it.
Thanks, guys.
Our shirt.